Marco Rubio was done playing nice.
Okay. No court can tell me how to conduct foreign policy. They can't tell me what I have to say to a president of another country, nor do I need to tell them what I told the president of another country.
During a House hearing, Ted Lieu thought they had Rubio cornered, but the response he got was so brutal that he had to switch the subject. And today, we're telling you all about it. So if you enjoy content that cuts through that noise, hit the subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
You would agree with me, wouldn't you, that in America, no one is above the law?
Of course.
Okay. And in our system of government, it's Congress that makes the laws, the executive branch that executes the laws, and the judicial branch, when there's a dispute, that says what the law is. Is that right?
Within the context of separation of powers, yes.
And in the case of Mr. Garcia, the Trump administration admitted in court that they mistakenly deported him to El Salvador. The Supreme Court, in a 9-0 decision, said the Trump administration has to facilitate getting him back. Do you believe the administration has to follow that Supreme Court order?
Well, I don't believe he was wrongfully deported. He's an Salvadorian citizen.
That's not my question. Do you believe that Trump administration has to follow the Supreme Court 9-0 unanimous decision?
Within the context of separation of powers.
Okay.
No court can tell me how to conduct foreign policy. They can't tell me what I have to say to a president of another country, nor do I need to tell them what I told the president of another country, because I can't conduct
I'm just
foreign
asking
policy.
you, do you believe the Trump administration has to follow the unanimous Supreme Court
I believe we
decision?
are following it.
It's been over a year since the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case first blew up. And despite many major developments that happened since then, the media has barely touched it. Court proceedings did confirm that he was wrongfully deported. But the reason came down to a legal mess. The immigration judge blocked his removal to El Salvador, but never issued the final removal order that normally comes with it. Because of that gap, the administration assumed he was deportable. Kilmar's legal team later tried reopening his asylum case, but that was denied too. So even if he stays in the country, there's still no clear path to citizenship. On top of that, the judge now overseeing the case has made it pretty obvious through repeated rulings that she's taking an aggressive stance against the administration. Marco saw exactly where Ted was trying to go with this and shut it down immediately. And he said this.
What steps have you or the State Department taken to facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
The conduct of our foreign policy is an executive function, and how I conduct it, I don't need to share with you.
Well, let me ask you this.
Share with the court.
Have you or the State Department taken any steps to facilitate?
We've taken steps, but I'm not going to tell you what they are, and I don't have to, because we conduct the foreign policy of the United States, and I can't conduct diplomacy with a foreign leader if I come to committees and tell you what they said to me, what I said to them, and more certainly a court can't tell me to say that.
So you have taken steps to facilitate Mr. Garcia's return.
We've made those. We've made that assertion, and we've made those assertions in court, and we've complied.
I appreciate that.
The Supreme Court's ruling that Ted was referencing basically confirmed what Rubio was saying here. When the activist judge originally ordered Garcia's return, she required the administration to facilitate and effectuate his return. But the Supreme Court stepped in and told her to clarify the directive's requirement to effectuate his return with due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch and the conduct of foreign affairs. Did you get all that? Because in plain English, they were telling her to remember the separation of powers and stop pushing beyond her lane. But this is where the bigger issue lies. Too many district court judges now act like they can dictate executive policy. And there's a reason for that. You see, during an interview in late 2024, Chuck Schumer celebrated appointing 235 Article III judges. And he explicitly said, the judiciary will be one of our strongest, if not our strongest, barrier against what Trump does. So even without controlling any chamber of Congress or the White House, they can rely on these activists in robes to push their agenda. After Rubio shut that down, Ted quickly pivoted to Ukraine. But Marco handled that just as effectively.
On August 24th, 2022, you tweeted the following. In the past 6 months since Putin's criminal invasion of Ukraine, Ukrainians have shown incredible bravery and strength as they fight to defend their homeland. On Ukraine's Independence Day, the free world applauds their courage and celebrates Ukraine's sovereignty. And then also in 2022, you said the people of Ukraine are tough people who will never accept being ruled by Putin. I want to ask you, I assume you continue to believe what you said in 2022, right? That we should celebrate Ukraine's sovereignty and that the people of Ukraine will never accept being ruled by Putin, right?
Yeah, that's why we're trying to end the war.
Unfortunately, it appears Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth went rogue and decided unilaterally to stop support for Ukraine earlier this year. Various news organizations reported that Secretary Hegseth paused military support to Ukraine without President Trump's knowledge. I'm going to read you from one article dated May 6, quote, Pete Hegseth canceled military aid flights to Ukraine just a week into Trump's second term without the president even knowing, according to Reuters. The order initially sparked mass confusion within the administration as national security officials in the White House, the Pentagon, and the State Department couldn't figure out who ordered the halt in flights. Did Secretary Hegseth tell you before he ordered the halt in flights to Ukraine of military weapons?
I can't comment on that because I don't remember that. I don't remember ever hearing that, to what you're claiming now.
It's almost like Ted was just bouncing from one trending issue to the next, trying to look like he was seriously holding the administration accountable, when in reality, he was mostly putting on a show. First, he pressed Rubio over the Kilmar case, even though Marco wasn't directly involved in the situation. Then, the second that line of attack fell apart, he immediately pivoted to something tied to Hegseth, which is an entirely separate department of government. And this is the pattern that you see all the time. Many Democrat lawmakers come in acting outraged, but their questions have little to do with the actual witness sitting in front of them. But Ted, he wasn't done yet. And somehow his next question managed to look even worse. Just take a look.
So your understanding is he never told you he was going to halt these flights?
I just know we're providing them assistance now, but the war ultimately has to end.
In 2016, you stated the following: from his repression of the Russian people and the assassination of his critics, to his dangerous invasion of Ukraine, the occupation of Crimea, to his threats against our NATO allies in Central Eastern Europe, to the war crimes committed by Russian forces, Putin's Russia is a threat to global stability. You would agree with your prior statement, right, that Putin's Russia is a threat to global stability?
I would agree that in my role as Secretary of State, my job is to bring Russia to the table to end the war. And that's what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to end a war so that more people don't die.
Thank you. And trying to end the war, I simply note that Putin on Palm Sunday launched a barrage of missiles, killed a bunch of civilians. Right before his conversation with Trump recently, he launched a bunch of missiles, killed a bunch of civilians. So clearly, Putin is giving the middle finger to you and to the president. I urge you to defeat Putin on the battlefield. That's the only way to get him to the negotiating table. I yield back.
Defeat how exactly? We're talking about a nuclear power here. And even European leaders openly acknowledge there are serious limits to what can realistically be done in Ukraine. But somehow, Ted Lieu comes into a congressional hearing acting like foreign policy is as simple as throwing out slogans about defeating Putin. Give me a break, bro. Sure, Russia's actions deserve strong consequences. I think we already get that. But the West has gone to pretty great lengths to prevent further aggression. Let's be serious. Even if the administration's long-term goal was to weaken or defeat Russia strategically, what would Rubio gain by bluntly declaring that in a public hearing? Nothing. It would only complicate matters further. But I guess performative activism and headline chasing are easier than serious diplomacy that actually delivers results.